All right, I got some time to do this, so let me do this now on my new computer. Anyway, um, it's been quite disturbing reading a lot of these comments that have to do with Ahmaud Arbery, especially coming from white folks. You know, I'd argue that black people are just as guilty, when it comes to, siding with the person who most looks like you. But I swear, it's like a lot of white folks got a real sick pathology when it comes to, the reaching that I see in this Ahmaud Arbery case. Just stating things that are patently false, egregiously false. And some of it is, their own biases and their own reaching because of white guilt. And then other parts of it is just, the misinformation and the way that the mainstream media tries to pit people against one another because they had all the facts, and they're literally delaying releasing, all the facts to the that leads people to believe one thing or the other, right? And so let's look at the facts of the case, okay, and see why um, the Mcmichaels got arrested and why they got charged. Now, I don't think that they're going to get charged with murder. I think they're going to get charged with manslaughter. Um, but anyway, I'm going to talk about some of the new things that have come out, some of the speculation, some of the things that are being said, and going back to, Georgia law. I'm not going to get deep into the details of Georgia law. You can simply go and you can look them up. But a lot of these criminal elements that a lot of white folks online are saying they're just patently false. And I'm like, you can go and you can look up the statute. Hell, it's white people who created the laws. So again, it comes down to the letter of the law. But I just find it funny at how, not only do you get people who don't know the letter of the law, you get people who try to come with their own, interpretation, feelings over facts, what they believe terms to mean, like burglary or trespassing. And they're just trying to find every way possible to exonerate the Mcmichaels when the Mcmichaels were in the wrong. And there's a couple key points as to why the Mcmichaels were dead wrong. And also, a lot of people have things misconstrued about the actual facts. It's like people, they go online and they start typing up a Twitter storm before they look at things like the police report. Now, I've been guilty of this myself, but I'm saying if you ever want to look at these cases and you want to talk about these cases, read the damn police report before you say anything. Okay, don't let the media tell you what you should think. Read the police report. And I can tell that there's a lot of white people who did not read the police report. Okay, now I want this video to be short and sweet, so I don't want to sit here and read through all that. It's all publicly available. All of you can go and you can read it for yourself. Okay, first things first. The biggest error that people are making, and I made it myself, is when you watch that video of Mr. Arbery walking up to the house and then going inside the house and then running from the house. The house immediately next door with the white truck is not the Mcmichaels house. The Mcmichaels, as has been stated by the Black Panthers and the NFAC, the Mcmichaels live all the way down the street, I think at the end of the block. But they live nowhere near the home that was the constructed the constructed home that Ahmaud had walked into. The person who called the police apparently was not the Mcmichaels. It was Diego Perez. He, I believe, lived across the street. And what the media did was combine the phone calls, making you think that it's one person, and it's actually two different people. The Mcmichaels, when you hear the Mcmichaels, they talk about how there he go. They see him running down the street. He's running. They did not see him enter any home. They did not see him commit any crime in a home because from where the McMichaels live, they can't see the house that's under construction. So right off top, they do not have immediate knowledge of a crime being committed. Now, Mr. English is the man that owns the property. Now, he went on television saying that nothing was stolen. Okay? He said he only told one person about the incidents of somebody walking through the house at nighttime. Okay? I'm sure that got around their little tight-knit community, and the McMichaels heard about it. Now, Tim Cass put out a video where an Officer Rash basically told Mr. English, and again, I don't know if this is a verified or confirmed text message, but there's a screenshot with some information blacked out of it, of a text message that basically says that Mr. English should contact the McMichaels to if he has any more problems with anybody, like, in his property. Right off top, that's completely fucked up, because here you have a police officer telling Mr. English, deferring responsibility to the McMichaels. Right? That's just that. First off, that's just going to get the police department in trouble to begin with. Second off, Greg McMichael failed to qualify for basic training as, a police officer. He failed. They have those qualifications or whatever. He failed that. So he's not qualified as a police officer, regardless of the fact that he was I think it was a detective for the prosecutor or something like that. Okay, he did not qualify for the police officer to defer responsibility to him, which again simply shouldn't be done. But I don't put it past these sort of small towns where everybody knows each other, right? So the other thing is that Mr. Arbery being inside the home under construction, as shady as it may be, right? Especially with, if that's him on the camera, him being there at nighttime, which again, we haven't seen, the complete video, if that is the complete video. Haven't seen anything being taken. Mr. English goes on television, who's the homeowner. He says nothing was taken, right? So trespassing based on Georgia statute is not satisfied, because there was no sign, there was no door, and the homeowner did not confront Mr. Arbery and say, stay off my property. Again, it's the same point I made about these Second Amendment people that recognize that in many states, Ohio is not one of them, in many states, the no guns allowed sign, it's not enforceable by the law. Even in Georgia, it's not enforceable by the law. Now, if the business owner tells you that you must leave and you decide to stay and you don't leave, now you are trespassing. Now you can be arrested, again, for a misdemeanor. Even trespassing, if we went with the idea that let's change Georgia state law and Mr. Arbery was trespassing, that is still not an arrestable offense for the McMichaels to have made a citizen's arrest. They would have had to witness a felony. Now, when it comes to burglary, I see a lot of white people throwing around the term burglary and throwing around the term dwelling. The issue with the burglary, of using the term burglary, is you have to show intent. And nowhere do we have any evidence that Mr. Arbery had the intent to burglarize the location. You could say he was staking out. You could say it's weird for him going in there or whatever at whatever time. You have no evidence that he intended to commit burglary. So right off top, it does not satisfy the grounds of burglary. You can talk about, oh, he's there and this, that, and the third, all this speculation that I see these white people throwing up. I'm like, you don't have trespassing. You don't have burglary. So, and again, you don't have the McMichaels, who do not live next to the vacant lot, or excuse me, the house under construction where they, I hit the pause button by accident. You don't have the McMichaels having immediate knowledge of Mr. Arbery committing a crime. Even if they had prior knowledge and they said, oh, that's the guy from the burglaries, right? And they chased him down and all that stuff, right? They still did not have immediate knowledge. They could not have chased him down based off of a crime that they didn't witness, that they thought happened previously. Okay? So, Travis McMichael claimed that he had a firearm, a pistol that was stolen from his truck. He did not witness that crime either. So if anything, all of this is, a bunch of implicit bias. Oh, that's the guy. Apparently, also, the McMichaels didn't, again, going through word of mouth, they didn't even see the video of the perpetrator who had been in the house. Now, people want to say, even Stefan Molyneux comes out and he's like, oh, the Greg McMichael had history with Ahmaud, and they knew Ahmaud because he dealt with Ahmaud with his gun charge case, because he had unlawful possession of bringing a firearm to a basketball game, right? So he had that, and he had a shoplifting charge. And I'm saying, if the McMichaels or Mr. English or anybody else had all the evidence in the world to be able to charge Ahmaud with a crime, why didn't they do it back in January when they saw him, on the cameras or whatever? If they knew who it was, if they were aware who it was, why didn't they just go to Ahmaud's house where he was living with his parents, show up and, have police officers there and make an arrest? Why not? If they got all the evidence in the world, right? But they don't have any evidence in the world. And the McMichaels, this is what people have to understand about the McMichael case and why they're being charged with murder, which again, I think will be reduced down to manslaughter. As it pertains to the McMichaels, the only thing that the McMichaels witnessed is Ahmaud running down the street. That is it. And then they gave chase. And if you look at the police report, I see another thing, white people running around, he attacked Travis with the shotgun. That was after they had tried to stop Ahmaud multiple times by blocking him off and telling him to stop multiple times. And, then Travis got out, in that, when the video that everybody saw on the street with the double lines, which I believe is, it's not Buford or Buford or something like that, because if you look, Santilla rolls into Buford, but if you look, Santilla doesn't have the double lines on the street, so it didn't happen on Santilla where the vacant lot is, or the constructed home is, or where the McMichaels live. Okay, it was on an adjacent street, but the McMichaels live next door to a vacant lot. There is no property that's directly adjacent to the McMichaels' home. So they couldn't have witnessed any crime being committed. They couldn't have witnessed trespassing. They couldn't have witnessed burglary. All they saw was Ahmaud running down the street, and they gave chase. They said, that's the guy from the burglaries, gave chase, and, what transpired, and Ahmaud ended up dead. Those are the facts of the case that we have thus far. People running around talking about Officer Rash and his text message. Again, Officer Rash would be dead wrong, deferring the responsibility to the McMichaels. Arguably, and again, I don't know where this Officer Rash text message is coming from, but arguably, that would mean that the McMichaels don't bear 100% of the burden of the guilt, right? That means you would have to bring in this police officer or bring in this police department into the fray, which again, I think if anything, let's say that was true and that was valid, then that would explain a lot of the scurvy behavior that was being done by who was that? The DA, or was that whoever it was, whoever that white woman is, that works at like the city hall or whatever, the key person that people are saying that there was some shady shit going on in the background, and they were telling people not to do this, not to make an arrest, not to do that, right? So there's a whole higher level of issues when it comes to this Ahmaud Arbery case. This is what people talk about when they talk about institutionalized racism, where now you're not dealing with just the ground level of interpersonal racism that goes on between a black man and a white man, but now you're talking about where the government gets involved, and now the government is supporting the criminal activity of white folks. So keep in mind and understand this: Ahmaud Arbery, by Georgia law, was not trespassing. Ahmaud Arbery, by Georgia law, was not committing burglary, as they do not have evidence of any burglary, and they do have not demonstrated intent. You have to demonstrate intent when it comes to burglary. Doesn't matter. Again, people throwing around dwellings and all these other terms and whatnot, and I'm like, you read the law. You have to show intent. Okay. And again, the Mcmichaels are not, their house is nowhere near this house that is under construction. They are way down the street. There is no way humanly possible, unless they have x-ray vision, that they were able to see Ahmaud inside that house. Impossible. He could have been running out the house with bags of jewels and gold coins spilling out of his pockets and whatnot, and they wouldn't have seen that. The only thing that they saw was Ahmaud running past the house, their house, empty-handed. Therefore, again, trespassing is not an arrestable offense. No burglary was witnessed, so they did not have immediate knowledge of a felony being committed. They saw Mr. Arbery running down the street. They gave chase. They tried to stop him multiple times. Ahmaud Arbery fought for his life, and he ended up dying when Travis, shot him with the shotgun as they were fighting over the shotgun. Now, people want to argue and they want to say, oh, well, Lee attacked him with the shotgun. You got two options in a situation like that. You're running and you have people trying to stop you 3 times. Okay. Now, if you've committed no crime, obviously that's a terrifying situation. And you don't know why they're stopping you. Like, even if he had committed a crime, again, where is the evidence of the crime being committed? Trespassing does not qualify. Burglary does not qualify. If, again, you could not demonstrate intent and you don't see him with any items on his person. They could not make a citizen's arrest in that situation. These are the facts. So, again, he had 1 or 2 options: fight or flight. You're not going to outrun the truck, and you're not going to outrun a man standing there with a shotgun. So what do you? And again, this is after multiple attempts of trying to stop Mr. Arbery from quote unquote escaping, right? Trying to prevent his freedom of movement. You see. So he chose to fight and unfortunately lost, his life. But these are the facts of the case. The Mcmichaels did not have the grounds to make a citizen's arrest against Mr. Arbery because they witnessed no crime. Even if they recognize Mr. Arbery from the video and they said it was him and he committed a crime and stole something from the house, a month ago, they still wouldn't be justified in a citizen's arrest because that is not immediate knowledge of witnessing a crime. Plain and simple. You cannot make a citizen's arrest based on what you perceive or think somebody did a month ago, 2 months ago, 6 months ago. Can't do it. That is not how a citizen's arrest works in Georgia, and it's not how it works in many other places around the country. You have to have immediate knowledge that a felony, not a misdemeanor, a felony has been committed. And again, with the situation with the Mcmichaels, that qualification is not satisfied. And so, again, I keep seeing a lot of white people running around and screaming about trespassing. They're screaming about, burglary. They're coming up with all these wacky ass scenarios. I mean, just dumb shit. So you mean to tell me if I leave my house and I have the door unlocked and somebody walks up and opens the door, that's not burglary? I'm like, actually, that would be burglary because the door is closed. This house had no doors on it, had no signs on it. And again, the homeowner did not notify or tell Mr. Arbery that, he could not be on the property, right? People would say, well, it's reasonable to assume. Again, it's already been demonstrated and shown that people walk through vacant lots and walk through homes under construction all the time. Right. But again, this is what Georgia law says. There either needs to be a sign, no trespassing, or there either needs to be a notification that, you are not to be on the premises and you've been forewarned. That's how it works. So if people want to argue with the state based on the letter of the law, the Mcmichaels fucked up. They saw a man running. They chased him down. They tried to stop him multiple times, which ultimately resulted in Mr. Arbery's death. Those are the facts. So, people want to come with all type of other mental gymnastics. I'm not here for it. So anyway, that's all I got to say. That's my video. SWP out.